everyone. It's kind of hard to tell where to face. Hello, everyone in Zoom. Thank you for being here. Folks who are here in person, thank you so much. I am Dr. Margaret Hebert, the State Center Community College District Coordinator of International Ed, which is why, but I also teach one English class here and I was hired at FCC. So we have an in-person space here, but I've shared the presentation with faculty across the district. So we have a really good Zoom attendance as well. Thank you all for being here. And what we're doing today is talking about how to internationalize your curriculum through some professional development opportunities and to help you figure out if and how you want to do study abroad, because that is a very natural, very practical, very rich professional development experience. So we'll end on that. I'll go through some other things first. But feel free to interrupt if you have questions, because we don't have a ton of time and I will try to get through everything, but we are monitoring the chat. So if folks in Zoom have questions or folks here have questions, please feel free to interrupt. So State Center Community College District is part of their mission statement and their administrative regulations has included that we are committed to providing a safe, inclusive, and supportive learning environment, leading to student success and global competitiveness. And you would think, well, we're a community college. Our focus should be on supporting our local students and helping them be educated and transfer and get certificates and degrees that will help them be employed, but also have a rich learning experience that will make their lives better. Yes. Those are all things we're committed to. But if there's one thing the pandemic showed us, it is that global is local and things happen in the world that affect our students' jobs, their health, their livelihood. And if we don't give them a perspective that allows them to understand global events and to respond to them and make their lives better through that understanding, then we're not giving them that full education. And our mission and our ARs are part of that. So what is it that we're trying to teach them when we say we want to give them global experiences? According to the California Global Education Project, these are the things that we want our students, skills, their competencies we would love them to have when they leave our colleges. They know how to investigate the world beyond Fresno or Parlier or, Kingsburg, wherever our students come from, that they understand that they are living in a world that's also connected to the greater world. They understand it in video games. My son is playing video games with a kid from Germany and one from Texas and one from Hong Kong in the same room. So they're already living in this global world if they're gaming at all. But it's important to show them that they're also living in this global world in their academic and professional lives as well. They also learn how to respect others' opinions and understand their own, why they think that. I was talking to a student yesterday. I was helping register in the counseling office and I was telling her about study abroad and she said, I still really think that the US is the best. I said, oh, really? Have you experienced other cultures or countries? No, but I'm pretty sure we're the best in the world. And I was like, great. I love patriotism. That's a very common feeling, but sometimes it takes going out into the world to figure out that other people have really good lives and countries and systems too. And that might reinforce why you think the US is the best. But the point is, she was speaking from this experience. And if we get them to see themselves as part of a broader world, it might reinforce that idea, or it might give her the idea that, there are many ways of being in the world and many cultures are doing pretty awesome things too, as well as we are. They also are able to communicate ideas effectively with diverse audiences. And which obviously our colleges are very diverse. And when they come into a classroom, often they're like, whoa, what are these people talking about? That's a very different opinion or experience than I've had. And internationalized curriculum helps them understand and be able to communicate with people who don't have the exact same experience that they had. And then obviously, ideally, they're taking action to improve conditions locally based on what they learn about living professionally and academically globally. So one of the ways you can get involved in your professional development is to join the International Ed work group that's across the district. If you're just interested in figuring out, well, hey, what are we doing globally? This is a great committee to join. It's not a formal committee, it's a work group, but we have representation across the district, and it is led by Dr. Robert Frost, the Vice Chancellor of Ed Services and Institutional Effectiveness. My position, 80% of my load is actually a district position, even though I'm faculty here. And he leads our international program. But you'll see that we have deans, VPs from every college. We have faculty from every college, and we're hoping to add students as well. All right, so what is our international ed program at the district? It's actually made of 4 components. Obviously, education abroad and exchanges. That's the really fun one, teaching abroad, taking students abroad, seeing their worlds open up. It's a lot of fun. But we also have faculty development and exchange where you travel or you do a virtual connection with an instructor in another country, and that helps you internationalize your curriculum. And you don't have to do study abroad. There are many other ways that you can engage with international ed that don't require travel. Internationalized curriculum, we have many classes across the district that already have international components in them. And at least at FCC, we have a global studies transfer degree. And I hope more of our colleges will develop those as well. But those of you in the room or in Zoom, how do you already have international themes or activities? How do you already internationalize your curriculum? Yeah.
So we teach a health and social justice class, and we do have to look at healthcare compared in the United States with other countries. So we do look at how other countries kind of manage healthcare, like universal access versus payer versus, like, in other words, like just looking at how we handle not only those, but some of these health disparities. What is the funding and the approach to that?
Wonderful. What is your name?
Lisa Zamora.
Annalisa Zamora. I don't know if everyone in Zoom heard that, but she teaches health and social justice, and as part of her curriculum looks at how other countries provide healthcare, whether it is state funded or private or on the ground local community funding projects. And her students already learn about how other people do healthcare, which of course is going to make them better healthcare providers because they have more options and they can serve their patients better, right? Yes.
I teach nursing. We also have best practices, whether it's here or elsewhere.
Yes. And what's your name?
Leslie Johnson.
Leslie Johnson offered that she teaches nursing, and that helps students study best practices, whether it's here or in other countries. And some of you may be saying, yeah, but that makes sense. That's healthcare, that's nursing. But there are other, like in math, aren't you teaching theories and mathematicians from around the world, right? And in philosophy, aren't you teaching Chinese philosophy as well as Greek philosophy? Like a lot of us are already doing it, and you might be thinking, well, I'm not really, I don't, but you are. And it's a really rich way for students to understand their world and also see their place in the global world. I don't know if anyone on Zoom also raised their hand, or did they add anything? Okay. Okay, so professional development. How can you go to conferences or engage in fellowships or seminars where you can learn internationally and bring that back to your classroom? There are many ways that we do that. One of them is through the Council of American Overseas Research Centers. I'll be giving more details about that in a little bit. And you see these emails from me all the time. I hope they don't always go into your junk folder, or you don't delete them right away, because there are really great opportunities out there. And I think a lot of times our faculty just don't apply. You're super busy, you have hundreds of emails, and that thing's just not sticking out, or you think, I don't have time to apply for that. But if you start seeing them after this session and you really want to start applying for things, please contact me. Radix is a faculty staff admin exchange that we do with a partner in the Netherlands. The application opens in March. And this one's really interesting. To cut the costs, the partners stay at each other's houses for 2 weeks. And we've had quite a few of our faculty do this one. Your partner from the Netherlands comes to your house in October and stays with you and shadows you at work for 2 weeks. Obviously, you try to fit in Yosemite or San Francisco, but the main point is that they are living and working with you and getting real cultural immersion and understanding how you do your job so that they can go back and apply what they learned. Then our faculty go to the Netherlands in May and do the same thing, stay with their partner, cultural immersion, shadow their partner. So that one's really good. Obviously, there's Fulbright Faculty and Administrator Awards. That deadline is coming up for faculty, September 16th. I'll be sending you all kinds of good stuff on Fulbright, so I hope some of you apply. Our study abroad programs, I said, are a really great way to go. And I'll say more about that in a little bit. But there are also international education conferences. So we are board member, University College of SCCCD, and that's Community Colleges for International Development, and their conferences come up. NAFSA, the International Organization for all things global education. So there are a lot of opportunities, and I send those out. So if you see them, if something looks interesting, please let me know. So these are some of our faculty that did participate in the faculty development exchange. And these are faculty from Reedley, Clovis, and Fresno City. And they did that exchange where the partner stayed with them for 2 weeks and then they stayed with their partner. The Council of American Overseas Research Centers. This one is perfect for community college faculty because they're actually looking to send and support community college faculty in fully funded overseas seminars. They pay for your flight, your housing, most of your meals, your insurance, and you just go and you learn. And we've had quite a few of our faculty do this one. We had Carla Kirk at FCC did the one in Senegal and learned a lot about, she teaches African-American studies. So of course it was incredibly enriching to her classroom. Kenneth Chacon and Monique Quintana in English did the one in Mexico where they studied indigenous populations and their culture and language. So there are quite a few opportunities with this one. I participated in this one. I usually don't go. I usually just send faculty. So it was really fun to apply for this one and go. It's in the summer, so I was able to do it. And it was incredibly rich. We gained firsthand experience of Mexico's indigenous communities and met local scholars, artists, activists. It was very much centered on the local community and how their indigenous population were experiencing everything from, the British Museum taking their artifacts as part of their exhibits. And one of the things we learned was there was a Polish PhD student who was writing about how there's a global effort in the big museums, the Louvre, the British Museum, museums all over the world, and getting those cultural artifacts that are not just precious, but often sacred to the local community. And museums are learning how to return those to local communities. It was incredibly rich. Here we are in the Museum of Anthropology, and it was a great group of people. Kenneth Chacon is in the front there. There were people from Hawaii, Arizona, Maine, Connecticut, all over the US who went to Mexico and learned about these topics. And it was incredibly moving. We stood that close to Frida Kahlo's The Two Fridas. And then we went to tour her house, Casa Azul, which was really beautiful. And it had her whole life story and, her kitchen and her art room and her bedroom. Yes, thank you.
So it says how does development and exchange for sign language users. We have 300 different sign languages. I'm not sure if that's for you or for.
You know what? That is a great question. I would have to research seminars like this based on sign language, but I think it would make a fantastic study abroad program to take American sign language students to another country and see how they do sign language and do kind of you could start with a COIL, Collaborative Online International Learning, where you first meet digitally and then you do a travel group. So definitely sign language is a wonderful class to do one of these professional development seminars or to develop into a study abroad program. That's a great question. Basically, I've had faculty come to me and say, I teach this. I'm not really sure how I would do this. And just yesterday, somebody in ESL said, I teach, oh, thank you, yes. Jennifer,
Yes.
I teach ESL. How do I do that in another country? Well, there are plenty of ways to do it because obviously in other countries, they also have ESL programs. So how do they do ESL? So you could take your students who are learning English here as a second or third language and see how another country is doing that. So I really can't think of anything that wouldn't work in study abroad or professional development opportunities. But if you feel like, I teach this thing, I don't really know how to do it, like welding, of course, obviously, you can learn how people in other countries weld. What do they use? There really isn't a discipline that we couldn't make work. And that's what I do. So come to me, email me, and I'll help you figure that out. Oh, also we saw the pyramids of the sun and the moon in Mexico, and that was amazing. Oh, and here are some of the other countries. They have other centers across the globe, but they have a center, Council of American Overseas Research Center in Bangladesh, India, Mexico, Senegal, Mongolia, Cambodia, and there are other countries as well. For all of their opportunities, I put their website there. But that one's really great because you apply like 8 months ahead, and if you're approved, you go for 2 weeks. Some of them are in January. That one gets a little more complicated because you have to really communicate with your dean about professional development, time off, and subs for your classes and stuff. So if you're applying for one that's during our duty days, you really want to communicate with your dean and make sure even before you apply that this is going to be something they will support. Most of our deans are awesome and totally support it. But like the Mexico one is in summer, so you're done with finals, and what a great way to end the semester. Gesundheit. Any questions in Zoom? Thank you. So obviously for me, there were personal enrichment, and for any of these programs, you'll have personal enrichment. Travel teaches you a lot about yourself, right? Because it forces you to see what you're like in another country where you're out of your comfort zone and you have to figure things out, not just, public transit or their money system, but really figuring out how to be respectful of the local culture and how you interact with local people. So it's incredibly enriching. And I was born in Mexico, and this was a part of Mexico I hadn't studied. So for me, it was incredibly enriching personally. But also teaching material. I sometimes teach world literature and mythology, and I had wonderful material for that. And this one actually resulted in, because I do study abroad, this one resulted in professionally, so I participated in that seminar in summer 23, and just this summer 24, we took students to Toluca. Well, we didn't end up going to Toluca, Mexico City and Puebla. And our students learned a lot, and it was incredibly rich for them. So it was a nice way I won this seminar that was fully funded, and it was a nice way to pay it forward and say, okay, I want to make sure our students have this experience as well. Fulbright, again, that deadline is coming in September. You'll see lots of emails from me, but there are others that I meant to put on this slide and forgot. It's been a busy week, right? You guys are tired, so thank you so much for being here. It's been a really busy week. We had 2 of our faculty do an NEH grant, National Endowment for the Humanities. Matt teaches Chicano Studies. What's Matt's last name?
Espinosa Watson.
Espinosa Watson. And Sally Saiz did 3 weeks in Mexico, and that was funded through the National Endowment for the Humanities. There are obviously NEA grants. There are many federal grants that you can look for. Teaching in Fulbright sometimes requires a semester or a year, so you kind of have to time it with your sabbatical project, your sabbatical application, if you're gone that long. But they also have shorter opportunities. So please go to Fulbright, put in your discipline, say that you're a community college faculty, because there are a lot of wonderful Fulbrights targeted towards community college faculty. And as I said, conferences, NAFSA. This year, the National is in San Diego in May 25. It's incredibly rich. You'll learn a lot. It's a week long. It's huge though. 10,000 people from all over the world come to this conference. And it's a little overwhelming. There are regional conferences as well, if you don't want to go to one with 10,000 people. We are District 12 in NAFSA, and our Region 12 is in Orange County in October. So that one's local, less expensive. It'll be smaller. It'll just be focusing on the West Coast states. And if you're interested in NAFSA, that's a good one to go to. CCID, as I said, they do their conference in February, and this year it's in Washington, DC. Next year is their 50th anniversary, and they are doing it in Arizona, which is very cool. Oh my gosh, or is it New Mexico? Check out their website. But they are celebrating 50 years. And I'm pretty sure State Center Community College District has been a board member college of that organization for over 30 years. They have a lot of, on their website, they have a lot of professional development stuff that's just free that you can look at and use in your classes, even if you don't go to the conferences. Diversity Abroad Global Inclusion Conference, that one's really good because it focuses on how to do study abroad in a way that is equitable and includes diversity and embraces social justice. So that one's really good. The Forum on Education Abroad. And then California Consortium we are part of is California Colleges for International Education. And they do a lot of work here, obviously in California. So these are some professional organizations. So I'm going to switch to Ed Abroad. Ed Abroad is fun. We do 2 to 5 years, 2 to 5 programs every year. Last year we did Mexico, Denmark, Italy, and Thailand, but they also spent a little time in Laos. So that one was 2 countries. So we send almost 80 students to 5 different countries, which is fantastic. It doesn't sound like a lot of students when we serve whatever those numbers were on convocation. What was it? 35,000. But when you think of how hard it is to get students to find the funding for study abroad and find the scholarships and figure out how to get a passport. Many of our students have never been on a plane. Many of our students living in this valley have never been to the Pacific Ocean. They've never been to Yosemite. So I've had students who've never left this town get on a 14-hour flight to China. It's fantastic. Their minds are just blown, and they just see all this opportunity that they, wouldn't be aware of otherwise. So study abroad is incredibly rich for our students. But as a professional development opportunity, which is why we're here today, it's incredibly rich for our faculty too. You can go, many of our faculty go on our study abroad because they don't want to plan their own travel. They just want to go and have everything figured out for them. And they want the academic component so that you're not there as a regular tourist. You're actually learning something that has a focus and that has experts being taught to you in addition to the faculty who go. There are other perks. When there are 10,000 people in line at the Vatican, you have a private tour and you just go right through the front. You go in with your study abroad group. There are many benefits to using our study abroad as faculty or staff for your personal travel, because you are able to go without having to plan anything. And it's much more rich than the average tourist because you have all these experts traveling with you and you're learning a lot. So we send 2 faculty in each program. Best practices is 2 faculty. So that way, if one of you gets sick or a student gets sick, the other one can still lead the group. So you do need to think about with whom do I work really well? Who's not gonna annoy me for 3 weeks in, Korea or wherever you're going? There's lots of in-country support. Our classes, you teach your classes in another country. So it's all your own curriculum and you are connecting your course SLOs to the activities that you're doing. So we had a anthropology and communications faculty pair teach in Greece a few years ago. And it was wonderful. They took their course SLOs and they applied it to when they went to see whatever in Greece, it was always tied to their teaching and their SLOs. Yeah. And then of course you bring it back to your classroom, the experience that you had. Oh, here's Costa Rica, Panama, Allied Health in 2022. That one was really awesome. They were able to do a service learning component where they did a health and hygiene workshop in a remote community, and that was incredibly rich for the students. And of course, helping local communities so that our carbon footprint is a little alleviated, that we're flying all these students to these cool places, because if you include a service component, you're actually connecting with the community and helping the local communities. So that one was really rich for that. Ireland 2023, one of our faculty here, actually. Do you want to say anything about that program?
No, it's great, but I do remember one of the students in that picture in particular didn't even know we had an airport in Fresno. When we flew out of Fresno. So what you said earlier
Wow.
absolutely is true.
Well, those of you on Zoom, that was Julio Trevino. He teaches English at FCC and he was one of the faculty on this group. And your partner faculty was from Clovis or Reedley?
That year it was Clovis.
Yeah. So it's really nice, especially you can choose faculty from your own college, but it's often nice to be able to go with somebody from one of our other colleges so that you can learn from obviously their campus processes and learn from their students and how they do things. And it's richer district-wide to find the students to go with you. It's nice, it's fun. Okay, the ones we just completed, I told you a little bit about. We had art faculty in Italy, and we had Clovis and FCC faculty in Denmark. FCC faculty in Thailand and Laos. They studied civic engagement and Asian American studies. And, they studied the art and the cultural things. They actually went to Hmong villages to kind of understand the refugee experience. And of course, Fresno has a huge Hmong community. So it was really rich for students to see where our wonderful Hmong population came from. But they also do fun stuff, like they spent the day at an elephant sanctuary and they were bathing the elephants and feeding the watermelons. So that was a really cool thing for our students to experience. In addition to all the academic work they're doing, there are a lot of fun things for them to do. And then we did food systems management and business hospitality in Mexico. And that was Jonathan Davey at FCC taught food systems management and culinary. So of course, Mexico is a fantastic place to study food and restaurants. And then Justin Cardella from Madera College, he's building their business hospitality program at Madera and Oakhurst. And he was able to, the students met with hotel managers and restaurant managers to really think about how, if you're going to major in business or tourism, how to do that work. So it was very rich for all of our students. The picture on the left is our students at the Temple of the Sun and Moon in Mexico. Picture on the right, that was our biggest program, 38 students and 3 faculty. That was a monster. It was really hard to organize. We actually learned maybe 30 is enough. Because, you want to, in a place that's really popular like Italy, a lot of our students want to go. So you want to take as many who actually can, but there is, it needs to be sustainable capacity where the students are well taken care of, the faculty don't feel overwhelmed. So that one actually taught us that. It was great, but 30 might be better. And then that's our group in Thailand. Actually, I think that picture's in Laos. And then this is our group at a museum in Denmark. So it's really fun to do study abroad. Next summer, and this is how it can be a professional development activity for you. We have a lot of our faculty and counselors do our study abroad for personal travel, as I said earlier, but as a way to figure out, I'm not sure I want to do study abroad. I'm going to go as a student where I can just have fun and do all the activities. They don't need the class. You know, you can fail the class. You've already got your master's or your PhD. You don't need the class. Most of us don't. A lot of us are OCDs and earn A's anyway on these things, but even if you don't need the class, you're required to take one class if you're going as a student participant. And what you can do as a professional development activity is, even though you're there as a student, you can bring that experience back to your classroom. Even if you decide, no, that was a ton of work. I don't think I do want to lead a study abroad program now that I've seen it in action. But that doesn't matter. You still studied there as a student, and you can bring all this rich experience back into your classroom, whatever you teach. So this coming up summer, we're doing critical thinking and anthropology. Clovis faculty are teaching in Berlin, Germany. In Ireland, Clovis and Reedley College faculty are teaching Irish literature and culture. And Japan, FCC faculty are teaching art and craft making, art history and craft making in Japan. In South Africa, FCC faculty are teaching African American studies and multicultural child development. So notice that some of these you're thinking, oh, anthropology and an English class, how is that working? But it works. I mean, if you look at the application, which I'm going to share with you, the application does require that you say, okay, why this country and why this partner and why are we teaching these classes? Because it isn't just travel. It isn't just, a junket, a fun thing. It's also needs to be grounded in the district's mission and values, and it needs to be grounded in your course SLOs. So as you're thinking about applying maybe for summer 26, deadline coming up in October, you can go on one of the programs in summer 25 to figure it out, to experience it as a student, still bring all that rich experience to your classroom and help you figure out if you actually want to teach and study abroad. Do you have any questions in Zoom or comments? Anything here? Yes.
So I'm curious about the facilities. So how does the school just arrange for that, or?
Yes, actually, we partner with study abroad companies that we've vetted. About 20 years ago, the district allowed faculty to just, hey, I have a friend in Indonesia, so we're going to figure out the housing and activities ourselves. Our world is much more litigious. We don't want faculty to be exposed in that way legally, planning it all themselves. So we contract with study abroad providers that I've vetted and that other previous faculty have vetted, and they create all the in-country stuff for you. Faculty focus on marketing, student advising, recruiting, finding the students who are going to go. Because I'm only one person at 80%, I still teach one class. So I do strongly rely on faculty to do the marketing, but that study abroad company takes care of everything in country, the housing, all the activities, the in-country transportation. Often there's an insurance component included. And the way it works is all the student fees, their fees include all the costs for the faculty. So you're definitely working. Julio can attest to this. You're working a year ahead when you're recruiting and advising students, right?
Yes, absolutely.
And it's extra work. Because you're also teaching. But the idea is that you're going to get paid for the summer class that you're teaching there, and you're compensated by a relatively free trip to you. You're paying for your meals, but other than that, your flight and housing activities and insurance is included in student costs. So the study abroad company does all of that in country. You don't have to figure out, how am I going to get my students from, the Louvre to Versailles on which train? You don't have to figure that out. The company does that for you. Other questions about, yes?
We talked about this before, but as far as like fundraising opportunities for the students to be able to fund that, are you getting to that? Okay.
Yep. There are many scholarships. The biggest one is the Benjamin S. Gilman Scholarship through the State Department, and students can get up to $5,000, which funds almost their whole trip. They have 2 application periods. I really push the one that closes this year on October 10th because students will know by December how much money they got. And the deadlines to apply for these and pay their deposits are not until February or March if you're leaving in June. So tons of scholarships. I also tell them about, obviously, they should use their college scholarship, their regular scholarship period, yeah, the local ones from the foundation. But they should, I also push like community scholarships. If they are a member of EECU, they do a student scholarship every year. Golden One Credit Union does 2,000 a year, I think. Go to your Rotary clubs, go to your chambers of commerce, local churches. They find money. The ones who really want to go and don't have the money, they find them. A few years ago, we had 2 students pay for their entire program in Costa Rica selling Jamba Juice cards. Now that's a lot of hustling. They sold a lot of cards to get to whatever it was. With the flight, probably around 3,500, but they did it and it was amazing. But if our students are citizens and eligible for the Pell Grant, they can apply for that Gilman Scholarship. And that's why I host workshops. I bring in previous winners, Gesundheit. And I have a thing on our application, a whole section on how to fund study abroad. So most of my job is helping students find the money to go.
Okay.
Yes,
Says, is there a minimum requirement for the number of students to join the travel?
yes, good question. The question was, is there a minimum number required for the program to go? The study abroad provider usual minimum is 10 per faculty. So if we want 2 faculty to go, we need 10 students enrolled. If we don't have enough, sometimes sadly, one of our faculty has to drop out, like Germany a few years ago had 2 faculty and one of them recruited 8 students and the other recruited 2. So we could only send 1 faculty in a condensed program. So we had to remove activities too. But we wanted to make sure that those 8 students didn't lose that opportunity. So we either remove activities or we shorten the time. There are lots of ways to do it if we don't get enough students. Ideally, you want 10 each to be able to go. There's a wrinkle though. Our district, your dean has to approve that number as well. Last summer, we had deans saying, no, for a summer class, we need a 15 student minimum. And then we said, okay, but study abroad is really hard. Getting 15 local students in a summer class is hard, but trying to get students to apply for a passport and pay for study abroad and figure out flights, you know. So your deans are flexible. It's just something you want to talk to your dean about. So to answer that question, how many students do I need per faculty? 10 per faculty for the study abroad provider to cover your fees. But you need to check with your dean. How many do your dean want before you can go? Good question. So this website on the bottom of this slide is, we use VIA TRM, again, because I'm only one person and I don't have a staff and I'm still teaching, so I'm not even a full person. I'm an 80% person running this program. I use this website to track all of our interested students and our applications. So for example, last year, Italy had over 400 interested students, and in the end, 38 were the ones who could come up with the funding and the scholarships and actually go. So we use this website to collect all those applications, interested students, and give them all their information and host information sessions and tell them about scholarships. So you can check out that website and you can create an account as a student and look at our programs if you're thinking of going as a professional development opportunity, or if you're thinking, oh, okay, so this is how my students will see it when I build my program. So feel free to check out that website. And obviously you can email me for the application form. So summer 26, I sent out the call in May. I said, hey, happy summer, great, glad spring semester's over, but please spend your summer thinking about how you want to do study abroad in summer 26. The first thing you have to do is find a teaching partner. Whom do you work well enough with that you actually want to travel with, and you like their teaching style, you like how they interact with students, you feel really comfortable working with them, because working with them there is so much more intense. You're with them. How many hours a day are you with students?
In Ireland, it was from 7:30 in the morning to 9:30 at night.
Yeah. Because
And it was a very condensed program,
It was condensed, it was 10 days, so they tried to fit in a lot.
and we did a lot.
Speakers, obviously Donegal Castle, but they went to Free Dairy and they went to so many local.
Lots of hikes, lots of wonderful cultural experiences.
Yes.
I wouldn't cut out a single experience.
Oh, no.
We did a lot.
Yes, students are exhausted, but they learn a lot.
Yeah.
There was a night that they had a local expert on the history of Irish music, and he brought all these instruments and played all these songs and talked about how Irish music evolved over time, and that was really rich.
Yeah.
Not sure how we got to Ireland. What was I answering? Okay.
Your partner.
Oh, find your partner. Yes. So if you're with someone 7:30 in the morning until 9 at night, doing really wonderful activities, you do want to find someone that you work well with. And it doesn't have to be on your campus. Often it's on your campus because you might not know a lot of faculty on other campuses. But it does help if you choose someone from another campus because they're recruiting on their campus and there's a point person, a contact person there students can meet with, and then of course yours. So it throws a wider net. I help with district-wide student emails to get this information out there. And I help faculty with setting up information sessions. Last year, I did 3 study abroad fairs on all 4 campuses each semester. So students on every campus saw me at least 3 times. And I do my best to help you recruit, but you see the students, you're connected to your departments, your divisions. You really want to go where the students already are, like large lecture classrooms. If you have a friend who teaches in one of those 200-seat classrooms, ask them if you can just come in for 10 minutes and tell about your program. Interview previous study abroad faculty. I host application. I'll do another. This is really short, it's flex, but I will host an application workshop where previous faculty will come and tell you about their experience and how they applied and how their program went. Attend those workshops, please, if you're thinking about it. And then obviously, as I said, go on one of them. If you're saying, I'm not ready for 26, I want to go on one as a student in 25 so that I can figure out how I would pitch my program or how I would figure out how to teach in another country. And then our deadline is usually in October. I need to meet with the vice chancellor to set up that hard deadline. We have a meeting next week. But then the international ed work group that I told you about in the beginning of this presentation, I collect all the applications, the proposals for summer 26. Then the work group goes through them and recommends, because the chancellor said, I really don't want all of our students and faculty going to Western Europe. We need to diversify the options. So last year we had Mexico and Thailand and Laos, and then 2 in Europe, and that's okay. But we'd like our students to see other parts of the world, right? And we'd like our faculty to learn from multiple parts of the world. So summer 25, we have South Africa, Japan, and then once again, 2 in Europe. But it doesn't have to be Europe. Think outside the box. Think about where students haven't been. Oh, yes.
Just a quick question. So if you have 2 different instructors from different departments, that's how you have that kind of integrated, like critical thinking and
Anthropology, yes.
It's just 2 instructors combining their class.
Oh, they don't combine it. You teach your class and your partner teaches their class. But generally, you go on the same excursions. Italy was a really long program and they had 38 students and 3 faculty this summer. So sometimes, one of them was an English faculty, so they would have gone to, help me, in Florence. They would have gone to Dante's.
They've gone to see Dante's Death Mask, for example.
Right, and they would have been reading Dante's work, or whereas the art history instructor would have spent a long time in the Uffizi, and the craft instructor would have gone to local artisan workshops. So you're teaching your own class, but a lot of the activities are shared, and sometimes you break off if your class really has separate needs.
Is it possible for a student to take both classes?
Yes, it's difficult. because you still need to meet 54 contact hours. So for your students, you turn in positive attendance and your grades after the program, and you need to show that your students for separate classes, you can't count the same activity as contact hours for two different classes. So that gets a little complicated. We encourage students to take one. It also takes the stress off of them. Some of them, if their parents are paying for it, they're like, no way, I need all the units. My parents are paying for this. They want me to get all the units. So we try to work with them, but we really recommend that students only take one class. But it's possible. Depending on where you're going, what the activities are, and what you're teaching.
Yeah, and I know a couple people at Fresno State that actually created a class that combines both their ideas. So it's one class that it's like.
So they're
like art and philosophy.
And they're co-teaching.
Yeah.
Yeah, we haven't done that as far as I know. I'd have to do some research. I've been in this position 11 years and the person before me was like 5-8 years. There's not a lot of institutional history, but I'm working on creating more of that for the next person in this role. So as far as I know, there hasn't been that kind of co-teaching. Faculty teach their own class and combine activities when they can, but everyone still has to meet. If you have a 3-unit class, you still have to meet your 54 contact hours, but you do that with the activities. So if you're going into a museum, all your time in that museum counts as contact hours because the students are there and, you're lecturing for part of it. They have a journal assignment or an essay assignment. Our art teachers sometimes, if they're teaching drawing, they would go to the museum and then they would have a drawing assignment related to it. So you easily meet your 54 contact hours, but you have to be strategic and very conscientious about it. Yeah, any more questions about proposing for summer 26? Are there Zoom questions? Thank you.
Is there a
Yes.
specific October date or is that yet to be determined?
Yes, I'm meeting with the vice chancellor next week and he's going to give me a hard date. Yeah.
So we'll know.
You'll know. I don't like to do it at the beginning of the semester because obviously you're busy setting up your classes. You have 1,000 things to do. And in September, I really spend my time pushing that Gilman Study Abroad Scholarship and getting students to apply for campus scholarships. So then I figure October, faculty are settled in, but I will host workshops. And that way, if the application is due mid to the end of October, the work group sends the recommended programs to the vice chancellor in November. The vice chancellor takes those programs to chancellor's cabinet, and then all the colleges and the chancellor agree, these are the ones we're sending that year. So there is a process. You might not hear if your proposal is accepted until January. And that's just because of, the nature of scheduling board meetings and chancellor's cabinet meetings and when they actually have time to get to what we recommend. But the work group recommends it and there's representation from every college in the district. It's not like I say, these are the best, these should go. I have no authority. I am faculty coordinator. I'm not even a manager. So everything I do goes through that district-wide work group and is led by the Vice Chancellor, Dr. Frost. Good question. And then we talked about internationalized curriculum. A lot of our classes are already doing it. There's that global studies degree at FCC. There are multiple degrees and certificates with an international focus. Obviously, the Spanish, the language courses, right, already have that. But world history, there are many courses that are already including a global topic or section in their curriculum. And one of the things that we've done, especially we developed it as everybody did during COVID, is COIL, Collaborative Online International Learning. If you're thinking, I don't want to travel with students, I do not want to do study abroad, that sounds like a lot of work and that's not how I like to vacation. I want to sit on a beach and not talk to anyone for 2 weeks when I vacation. Yeah, study abroad is not a vacation. You are definitely working. But if you still want to have that international experience, you could do COIL. These are virtual exchanges and This is just, we talked about the components of an international course, the laws and customs of other places, the terminology of other places. The benefits of a COIL are you can internationalize curriculum with very low cost. Obviously, equity and inclusion are students who can't afford study abroad, or maybe they have children they have to care for, or elder care, or they have jobs they can't leave, but they still want those global competencies. One way you can do that is through collaborative online international learning. And obviously you get professional development, your students get that global experience. It prepares them as global citizens, part of the global workforce. Obviously, there's a diversity and understanding of multiple viewpoints and intercultural learning, and it's less expensive. The only cost is the time it would take you to set up the activity with your partner in another country. So you're still teaching your regular class, but you identify a unit. And COIL is interesting. You can do something as small. We've had some of our faculty where I just help them find an international partner, and all they do is trade lectures for a day. And the students are learning about a topic from a teacher in another country and digitally. Or we've done ones that are as long as 8 to 12 weeks, where most of the class, all of the activities are completed with another teacher and with students in another country. Those are harder to develop. So the cost there is your time in meeting with that instructor, long before the class starts and really planning out how you're going to do every unit. But they're incredibly rich. The longer ones they're richer, they're more complex, the students are more engaged for a longer time. But I really think even if you do something as small as having an international lecturer join your class, that it's still very positive for your students. Here are the ones we've done during and after COVID. We did an agricultural virtual exchange with you. We have a partner in Baja California, the Autonomous University of Baja California. And they did a virtual exchange that later turned into a travel exchange. We did a language exchange with Guanajuato, Mexico, and our honors program have done virtual exchanges through our study abroad partner has an entire suite of free course materials that you can plug into any class, and they're based on global competencies. Jeep, we did this, we won this grant through the State Department, the 100,000 Strong in the Americas grant. And that's when the presidents of both countries they said, all our students go to Europe or Asia. We need to have our students and faculty go into the Americas. And so that was the agreement, 100,000 Strong in the Americas. And you apply for a grant. Our partner was in Mexico, the UABC in Baja. And we were able to send 9 students and 3 faculty from our district. And they sent us 12 students and 4 faculty from their university. And notice that we're a community college district. They're one of their top universities. It doesn't matter. As long as the students are working on similar projects and they're learning from each other, it doesn't matter if you're working with somebody who's not a community college in another country. Community college is kind of a very American concept. So often you'll have to work with a university in another country or a technical vocational college. We also had a strong partner in Denmark in applied text business and culinary arts. Almost 15 years we did an exchange. I had reduced resources. I used to be 100% at the district and I had 20 hours a week from support, a program specialist support. And then when I came back to the college, I lost that support and I have to teach a class. So unfortunately, I had to let Denmark go. It was a huge time suck because I found host families and the students were here for a month. And every weekend we were taking them to Universal and San Francisco and Yosemite, but they were in our classes. The other thing that kind of hurt that one is students are no longer allowed to audit courses. So we couldn't figure out how to get them into the classroom because they weren't here as traditional international students who actually complete courses for degree programs. But that was a wonderful exchange for many years and we could still do a virtual exchange with them if you're looking for a partner in any of those areas. So this is the one that started as a virtual exchange in Guanajuato, the University of Guanajuato in Mexico. And they actually did it the opposite. In November of 2019, we sent students there and they sent students to us. And then, of course, during COVID, we switched it to a virtual exchange, and we had a mechatronics instructor at Clovis doing robotics, working with, I can't remember the discipline of his Mexican partner. But, you know, you could do it. There are a lot of different ways that you could do it. This is that Danish program I was telling you about. And again, it was really fun. They didn't end up being an even exchange because our students can't afford Denmark as easily as their students can afford California. So the travel portion, those are a lot harder to figure out. But when they became virtual, again, then you don't have to worry about all those travel costs and you can still have them learn from each other. So the exchange where we won that grant, the 100,000 Strong in the Americas grant, we did a virtual exchange first where students, it was an entrepreneurship program. The ag students suggested ingredients, and that year it was beef and tomatoes. Then the culinary students developed a recipe, and they did it virtually online together first. And then when the marketing students talked about, well, what do we do with this product? Where is this a Trader Joe's product? Is it Whole Foods? Is it Food for Less? Like, where do we? And then the applied tech students built the packaging for the product. So it was a really fun entrepreneurship partnership where students started digitally, and then eventually we were able, when we won that grant, to do a travel component as well. So these students are here at FCC, they presented their project. And there was an industry connection because restaurant owners and tourism owners from our community judged the final product of what the students built. It was really cool. I'm sorry, does this go till 10:45? 10:45. Thank you so much. Okay, so this is what our program does. It prepares our students for the global workforce and global citizenship. It expands their opportunities for personal, academic, and professional growth. And by growing our international programs, we enhance education for all of our students. So I think a lot of our faculty and community members and even board members sometimes feel like, oh, well, study abroad's too expensive. That's for when they get to university. Our students can't do that. It's too bougie. You're only serving a few wealthy students. None of that is true. I work really hard to find scholarships for our students. I realize they can't afford it. And a lot of our students go on scholarship money. And so it isn't just our wealthiest students. But I feel like there are so many other ways for you to develop professionally that we don't have to rely on study abroad. That is expensive, and you're moving bodies, and there is a carbon footprint sending students and faculty all over the world. There are so many other ways that you can use professional development, like in those seminars and fellowships and grants like the Fulbright, the KORC, the NEH, that you can develop yourself professionally and bring that back to your classroom. Requires no travel by your students, no passport by your students, but you're still giving them that global competency by bringing those topics into your classroom and having them engage with other parts of the world in different topics. So think about how you can do professional development and internationalize your classes with or without travel. There are a lot of ways I can help you do that. Is that it? That feels like the end. Resources. These are just some of the organizations I told you about where you could go to conferences or look at their websites or look at our membership. There's a document, guidelines on how to internationalize your course. These are some of the organizations we're members of. So if you want any more details on any of these things, I can send them to you afterwards. But that's me. That's my email. Whoa, that did not space well, but that's still me. And that's my email. So please let me know if you have questions about any of these professional development opportunities. Apply for KORC. It's wonderful, fully funded. Apply for Fulbright. You just have to kind of decide if you're gonna find a short one or if you're going to time it with your sabbatical activity and, still be able to go away for a whole semester or 9 months or a year. Or come to our study abroad, come as a student. No stress, it's just fun. You're there to learn. That would help you bring back that experience to your teaching. And it will also help you figure out if you ever want to lead a study abroad program. So think about all these opportunities, contact me, and have a great semester. We're early. Do you have questions?
Yeah.
Hi.
Where is 25 going again and 26?
25,
Slide on that?
I did.
Would you mind just like bringing it up?
Let's do that. 25 is going to Germany. Globalized faculty are teaching English 3, critical thinking and anthropology in Berlin. So if you want to go on that. Ireland, they're teaching, Fulbright and Reed College faculty are teaching Irish literature and culture. So you can, again, go as a student and learn about that. Japan, art. They are teaching craft making and art history. 3 weeks in Japan, they're going to Kyoto, Tokyo, Hiroshima. I feel like one more, Osaka. South Africa, they are based mostly they're thinking about Johannesburg, but they might add another city. And you don't have to be a child development teacher to go to the one in South Africa. Maybe you just really want to go to South Africa, so it doesn't matter if you don't teach in those disciplines. What you're learning is, those topics in another country that you could bring back to any classroom, but also you're learning about South African culture. So please consider going first as a student and as your own professional development opportunity and bringing that back to your class. But you could also apply for summer 26, and that's due in October. I wanted to go through the application, but I will host another workshop that actually, once you identify your partner, please look for my emails. I'll be hosting a workshop on how to actually apply, and we'll go through the whole application on how you can apply. It's like anything else. We're just like our students. We turn it in at the last minute, right? But it's a complicated application. Don't do that. Those aren't often very successful because you do have to write responses to how does this program fit into the district's mission and goals? How does teaching in this country going to help you meet your course SLOs? Why does it make sense to teach your class here? So it's not like you just, wow, I really want to go to Guatemala. It's been on my list a long time. Great. I hope you go. But in the application, you have to show how does teaching this class in Guatemala enrich the experience for students and be relevant to what they're learning and allow you to bring it back to your program for future students who can't travel. So it's a complicated you've seen the application. How long did it take you to write it?
A good while. I think the most difficult part of the application is imagining the SLOs for the course in that country via the experiences, especially if you've never been to that country.
Yes, it
So
does take some
going as a student to a study abroad program is perfectly like priming you to then carry over and build your own program as well.
Yes. So if you go to one of the ones in 2025, that doesn't mean that you have to pitch your program. Let's say you do Japan. That doesn't mean that you have to pitch for Japan the next time. You're just learning how the instructors lead study abroad. And if you really want to do Guatemala, you will see how, I can see how this instructor made sure that their course SLOs were relevant to Japan. Now I can do my research about Guatemala, even if I haven't been there, and I can see how to make sure that my course SLOs align with the activities we'll have in Guatemala. But it does, especially if you haven't been there, it does take some research. So you don't want to, let's say the deadline is October 25th. You don't want to start writing it the week before. You need to find your partner now. You need to start thinking about which classes you want to teach. And you don't want to decide on classes that have 3 or 4 prereqs, because suddenly your market is really small. Suddenly there are only like 12 students who have already taken all the classes you need them to take. So it's a good idea to choose a class that's transferable, because the people, if their parents are paying for it, they want it to be a class the students actually gonna be able to transfer with or meet requirements with. And you want to make sure that it doesn't have a lot of prereqs, because then your market's smaller. And you want to make sure it works well with the other class, depending on the activities you do. So do you see what I mean? It's a complex thing. It's not something that you can just, wait for the deadline. But I realize we're all like our students, we all procrastinate. But I'm here. That's what I do. So email me. I can meet with you via Zoom or in person. And please come to my workshops on how to apply. And I can go into a lot more details about how to do this. But I think it's really good advice to go on one first for fun. And all of our colleges do professional development funds differently. I don't know if your TNC committee on your college campus will support you in any way for if you want to go on study abroad as a professional development opportunity. Please talk to your campus TNC committee and your dean if you're thinking about doing this as a professional development activity and looking for any district funding. I don't have that authority on, each campus does that differently. So it's really important you talk to your dean and your TNC committee on your campus. But, if you're paying for it yourself, you don't have to deal with any of that. You just go as a student. It's really fun because we have community members go. They want to travel, but they don't want to plan it. And they really want the academic program component because it's so much richer than being the average tourist. And so you'll have retirees from, like one year for the Italy program, we had 4 retirees from COS and Fresno State. They didn't need the class. They all had PhDs. They were all done with teaching. But they really wanted the class. They wanted to learn. And so it's fun because your students, you'll have traditional students that are our age, early 20s, but you'll have these community members that are retired. So they're giving really great experience for the younger students, and they're learning a lot from the younger students. Our staff, our counselors and instructors who go on our programs are adding a lot to the experience for students because they're teaching other classes. So you'll have a fun mix of community members, our faculty and staff, and traditional students. Oh, we also get students, we'll have students who want to do study abroad, but they're at UCLA or UC Davis, and they don't want to do a semester. They want that experience in their academic career. But they can't commit to a whole semester because they're in a really intense engineering program where they can't take a whole year off or semester off. So we often have students from CSU or our students who transferred to Fresno State, they come back for our study abroad because it's cheaper and shorter. So the people who actually go with you, it'll be a real diverse mix of folks. Yeah.
I was just wondering for the classes you're saying, so it doesn't have to be a Fresno City College student. I mean, they would have to enroll as a Fresno City College student.
They have to enroll because they're required to take one of the classes, but no, they don't have to be a traditional.
Right.
Yeah, so our faculty leading them, they will promote their programs in their professional organizations. Or we'll have faculty from Fresno Pacific or Fresno State or UC or SED go on our programs. So yeah, it's really diverse in terms of age, experience, culture. The students who the group who actually ends up going is not just your traditional 18 to 25-year-old college student. Any questions in Zoom? Any questions or comments here? I am supposed to, sign-in sheet. Did everyone see this sign-in sheet? And then you'll send me the recording so people get credit for being in Zoom. I want to make sure you all get your flex credit. Well, thank you so much. I appreciate your time. Have a great semester and please actually read the emails I sent. It'll be fun. There's good information in there. Thank you.
Thank you.